Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. Agam and I are here to wrap the markets up for you. Now, yesterday's combat news triggered a vertical fall in the Indian markets, and the pressure was further aggravated on account of the expiry of the September derivative series, and we saw selling across the board. But we've seen a very smart recovery today.
Absolutely.
The selling pressure seems to have clearly abated, and in fact investors seem to have used this opportunity to actually go ahead and buy some quality stocks.
Right.
And despite yesterday's concerns and the falls, it looks like the uptrend is still intact, at least as for now. However, having said that, the global environment doesn't look extremely supportive, given that Deutsche Bank issues still continue to remain the key focal point, and that is actually impacting some of the American and European markets. But again, the surprising part really was the fact that FIIs were net buyers yesterday.
Yes.
That is something that took all of us by surprise. Not to mention or not to ignore the fact that we also had a Kotak Mahindra deal yesterday, and Hindustan Copper OFS, that was partially the reason for seeing those positive numbers. But having said that, foreign and local investors both were net buyers yesterday, so that is seen as an encouraging trend. Besides that, even for the entire month of September, foreign investors have invested about $920 million, and that's the second highest as far as the Asian countries are concerned. So it does look like that strong inflows and their positive views on India do continue. So you had the Nifty ending about 0.2% higher, crossing 8600 mark. Sensex also ended about 50 points higher. Advanced decline ratio, in fact, today reversed. So if I look at the Nifty 500 index, yesterday, contrary to what it was yesterday, there were 410 gainers today and 90 losers. The situation was absolutely reversed yesterday. But Agam, mid caps are also holding on to gain, seeing a smart recovery.
Right. So, but before going to the mid caps, I'm going to talk about what's happening in the futures and options space. And I want to say that at least with respect to sentiment, it seems like we are unlikely to see any further escalation in the geopolitical tensions that we've had, and that is very apparent in the India Volatility Index, which moved up as much as 33% yesterday, but once again has fallen by as much as 7% today. Let's also take a look at what's happened in the options market today. So with respect to what's changed today, we've seen a big spike and a lot of writing in the 8900 call and the 9000 call, as you can see. And those are the two options which has seen the most amount of activity today. Along with that, we have seen some amount of writing in the 8500 and the 8400 puts, but that was also expected. So the kind of range that we're looking at, which will also bring me to the maximum open interest distribution, that is in the 9000 call and in the 8500 put. So that's the kind of range that we are working with, at least as of now. With respect to the way the futures have moved for the indices, we really haven't seen too much addition. But once again, given the fact that the FIIs yesterday bought around 850 crores worth of index futures on a net basis, that most certainly tells you that we are looking at some amount of positivity moving into the next week. So you want to tell us about all the big gainers and the losers in today's show?
Absolutely, Agam. It was realty stocks which saw the maximum gains. If I talk about the sectoral trends, PSU banks seem to be back in vogue, and that apart, metals and auto stocks were also doing well, so not surprising. But the only sector which actually ended lower today or in the red was FMCG. Nifty FMCG is what I'm talking about. Not surprising, off late there have been significant concerns over the kind of valuations that they have been trading at. So this is the second or the third straight day when we are seeing the Nifty FMCG index ending lower. But pharma definitely was in the limelight today, and for example, you had Aurobindo Pharma, that's the top Nifty gainer today. Now, Jefferies has initiated coverage on the stock with a buy and a target price of 1150. In fact, it is their top large cap pharma pick. They're expecting the valuation discount in the sector to narrow, given that they're expecting a good 20-21% EPS CAGR growth over FY 16 to 19 period. But on the other hand, the top loser on the Nifty index was also Cipla, down as much as about 4%, and so significant correction came in after the company said it has received 4 observations from the US FDA for its Goa plants. However, they did say that the observations are procedural in nature, but that negative impact not really surprising. That apart, amongst the losers, you had IT names like Tech Mahindra, you have ITC, Coal India, that was some of the losers. And on the gaining side, as I mentioned, PSU banks are having a good day. So when it comes to the Nifty, PSU banking stocks like Bank of Baroda and SBI. SBI also saw some gains of about 1.5%. You can't see that here. So that's the trend as far as your large caps were concerned. Agam, mid caps.
Excuse me. So when it comes to the broader market indices, the small cap and the mid cap indices saw the biggest fall yesterday in the last 13 months. Today we've seen a little bit of a rebound, and it seems the way they've been reacting, it seems like it was a one-day scare, because they've held on to the greens, and it's been throughout the day. It's not been moving into the red and green like we've seen in the case of the Nifty or the Sensex.
Yeah.
So we have seen substantial gains in the broader markets, and we have seen a lot of recovery too. So let's take a look at some of these gainers today. Dishman Pharma, we've seen a lot of strength in this stock, and once again it is up as much as 15%. We've seen good gains in Balakrishna Industries, Tata Communication, TVS Sri Chakra and Reliance Communication. Reliance Communication making a smart move after a big loss yesterday. So not only has it recovered yesterday's losses, but it's also made some gains over that. Indiabulls Realty, Keswaram Industries and Seat among the other counters which have made substantial gains. In fact, if you consider the first 24 stocks in these 500 stocks, all of them have gained well over 5% today. In terms of losers, well, let's consider Alchem Laboratories, and well, that's taken perhaps the biggest knock in, amid the mid cap. So down by as much as 8.3%. Hindustan Copper, Cipla down as much as 3.8%. Of course, that belongs to the Nifty. Sonata Software, Techno Electric, as well as Birla Corp also losing out. But as you can see, the losses aren't as deep as the gainers. So today's day, well, I will say it clearly belongs to the mid cap and the gainers particularly. So with that, well, I'm sure going into next week, we are looking at the big policy coming ahead on Tuesday.
That's correct, Agam. That is something which will definitely be the focus as far as domestic cues are concerned.
Yeah.
So this time around, we will have the Monetary Policy Committee which will be in focus. So this is the first credit policy when that will happen, and in fact now there has been some changes. So there's going to be a Monetary Policy Committee meeting over a 2-day period. So they meet on 3rd and 4th, that is Monday and Tuesday. Credit policies are usually on a Tuesday, so this time the MPC will meet for 2 days, and we will have the decision out on 2:30 on Tuesday. So yes, that's definitely something that they're watching out for. And that apart, I have to mention ICICI Prudential IPO.
Yes.
The very weak debut yesterday, not the best day to list. Nevertheless, valuations were said to be of concern, but today we did see some buying interest. 3.5% higher is where the stock ended, about 310. So that's all the action for today. But to really understand where the markets are going and what some of the fund managers are saying, we are going to come back just in about 10 minutes. We have Nilesha from Kotak Mutual Fund joining us on this week's this edition of Thank God It's Friday. So yeah, do come back in about 10 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Stay tuned in.